You want to be confident in your creativity because the person you're working with has selected to work with you. They have the confidence that you can bring their vision to life. You probably chose to watch this video because it's time for your first shoot, and I just want to say congratulations. You might be a little bit nervous, or you're probably pretty excited to finally get going. Today, I wanted to share with you a few things I would do if I had to go back and do my first shoot again. That way, you'll feel confident and prepared to execute your shoot with precision. The first tip I have for you is to get all your ideas on paper or some form of digital notepad. That way, you have something to refer to on the shoot, and any ideas that you have before the shoot, you can add into that list. Personally, I like to use the Notion app. This is where I'll create a list of ideas and also jot down some shots that I'm looking to get. The next tip that I have for you is go and scout your location before the shoot. So if you can't physically make it into the location before the shoot day, I would suggest going on Google Images or Google Earth, whatever you can do to kind of get it outside, and if there is any chance, an interior view of your location. That way you know where the light is hitting, what kind of lights you may need to bring, and with that, I would also look at the weather. See what it's going to look like, because if it's rainy, that might alter your shoot and you may have to adjust your shot list or your plan of action before the shoot to accommodate for the weather conditions. Speaking of weather, you want to dress appropriately. Maybe it's going to be freezing or extremely hot. So you want to make sure you have the most comfortable clothing going into the shoot. That way you're not getting too overly sweaty or too cold, because I find if that happens, it could take away from the shoot because you're just rushing through it to get through those conditions. So be prepared, look at your location, look at the weather, and make sure you're dressed accordingly. The third tip I have is charge your gear and make sure that your camera bag is packed the night before the shoot. Because there's so many other things to worry about, the last thing I want to be thinking about is, oh shoot, did I pack extra batteries? Did I bring my memory cards? Do I have my light? I would even suggest jotting down on a piece of paper or a notepad gear that you want to bring for the shoot. That way, once you pack the gear, you can cross it off your list. And then once your list is all crossed off, you know that you have everything you need. Another side note is I'd make sure the memory card that's in your camera is formatted. If you have any footage on your memory card from a previous shoot, personally, I prefer to have a clean memory card going into a shoot. That way, the entire project is on that memory card. So when I go to back it up or import it into my editing app, there's not other footage that I have to search through just to find the shoot that I recently did. And while you're packing, I would suggest to put in some hand sanitizer, have some Band-Aids. You might think it's a little bit weird, but what happens is if your hand gets a little cut up on the shoot, I sometimes have these little hangnails, so I'll go into my camera bag to grab a piece of gear, and sure enough, the hangnail is ripped off. And I'm sure your client doesn't want to see a bloody hand coming to mic them up, or while you're shooting, kind of getting blood around the area you're working at. So be sanitary, bring some Band-Aids. I like bringing floss and things like that just to make sure there's nothing stuck in your teeth. Bring the sanitizer. That way you can sanitize your hands after eating, or maybe you're in a dirtier location, so once you're done in that location, you can sanitize up and feel confident and clean to move on with the rest of the shoot. Tip number 4 I have is make sure you have your gear prepped. I know I mentioned packing your gear earlier, but what I also like to do is get certain gear ready so when you get on location, you don't have to mount certain camera parts together. If you have your gear basically set to shoot while you're taking it out of your bag, you're saving time on the set, so you can have more conversations with your clients and feel confident knowing that everything is basically ready to go and you don't need to spend an extra few minutes bumbling around with your gear just to get ready. For me, I like to put my tripod plates on the bottom of the camera, plug in microphones into the ports. When it's time to give somebody a mic, it's already plugged in and I don't have to do that on set. For my gimbal, I'll like to have it mounted the night before and stabilized, and I make note of what those markers are at on my gimbal, so that way I can refer back to the markers when I slide my camera into the gimbal and I can get ready to shoot right away. Also, if I take it off for the gimbal and maybe put my camera on a tripod and then need to put it back on the gimbal, I know what numbers the settings were at, so it's just a matter of sliding the camera right back into the gimbal and getting back into the action. Tip number 5, this kind of goes back to the tip about being prepared for the weather conditions and scouting your location. I would say make sure you have your fluids and any snacks or food that you might need for the shoot. It also might be a good idea if you're having a longer shoot to look at what restaurants are in the location. That way you can make sure you're fueling yourself properly while you're doing your filming. If you're feeling hungry or thirsty, that can take away from creativity because you have your mind focused on hunger, or you can become super dehydrated, and I feel like that's distracting from the video shoot. So you want to make sure you're prepared, have a water bottle, have some snacks. Maybe you can make a sandwich, bring it along. I find foods that you can eat with your hands is perfect. You don't want anything that you have to maybe warm up or whatnot. If you're going to do that, I would suggest just going out to a restaurant. Maybe you can even go with your client or whoever you're shooting with and kind of all collectively take a break. And then that way your client's not getting overwhelmed and flustered with continuous shooting. Tip number 6, you want to make sure that you're confident. And you might not feel as confident as you'd like to right now, but just remember, whoever you're working with, even if this is an unpaid job, you want to be confident in your creativity because the person you're working with has selected to work with you. So they have the confidence that you can bring their vision to life. So even if you don't feel 100% confident in what you're doing, I find being packed, having a shot list, scouting your location, knowing what you're going to do if something changes. Don't just run into the shoot with your camera and say, I'm ready to go. Take the time to prepare and execute a plan that works for both you and your client. I also find a good way if you're working with a client is overall ask them, what do you expect from this shoot? What would a successful photo shoot or video shoot look like for you? And that way you can know what that answer looks like and work together to create that vision. And if you still don't feel confident going to do this, you have to fake it until you make it. It's just like anything in life, whether we're driving for the first time, going to the gym, maybe we're taking a new class. It doesn't always feel like a familiar territory, but the more you do it, the more shoots you go on, you'll notice what you want to change for the next shoots and you'll continuously improve. So don't beat yourself up, keep being creative, keep pushing forward, and the confidence will naturally come to where you're not even thinking about these things at one point. I hope this video makes you feel excited and confident going into your first video shoot. Congratulations, this is a big step in the right direction. Life is about trying things and seeing if you like them. This might not even be something you fully enjoy, but I also think if that is the case, you'll have some takeaways that you can apply into your next endeavor. But that's all I have for you today. I really appreciate you clicking on today's video and watching, and I hope you feel more confident and excited to get to your first shoot. I'm wishing you all the best luck. I'm the Creative Fro, keeping you in the know. I'll see you next time for another video.